Am I wrong for not wanting my husband's child to be part of our life? Over 5 years ago, my 38 female husband, 38 male, and I separated. He had an affair. He entered therapy, and eventually I decided I wanted to see if we could rebuild our marriage. I forgave him, and over the last 5 years, he changed a lot. I opted to not know everything that happened while we were separated, but I knew there was a one-night stand. He truly put in work to become a healthier and a better man. We've been married 16 years, if that's relevant. A month ago, he was contacted by the one-night stand. She just got out of jail. I can barely believe I'm even typing these words. And she told him that 5 years ago when they hooked up, she got pregnant, and that if he didn't Venmo her $500, she would tell his wife that he has a child. He was shocked because this was the first time he heard about this. She won't agree to a DNA test willingly, so he has to get a court order. She also says she slept with multiple partners, so she isn't 100% sure he's the father. Obviously, this sounds sketchy, but she sent him pictures of the child, and I would be shocked if he wasn't the father. I feel devastated. My feelings are complex, but I'm in therapy, so that's not why I'm posting this. The child has been in the grandparents' custody for years, along with the child's sibling, since the mom has been in and out of jail. I've been through a lot. I have diagnosed PTSD, and sometimes it is not manageable, but I am in recovery. I don't know what to do because I don't want this child in my life. I have a stepmom, and I know what it feels like to know you're resented. My stepmom didn't have to tell me she resented me for me to know. I sensed it. Later in life, she confessed as much to me and apologized. We have a good relationship now, but being resented made an impression on me as a child. The thought of having to explain to our family and friends, let alone our other children, who this child is, absolutely guts me. I feel like puking just thinking about it. It was humiliating enough to be cheated on and have everyone know my business. I lost friends when I chose to let him come home and chose to try to restore our marriage. One of my former friends told me that she lost respect for me and that she was disgusted that I would give him a chance to hurt me again. How would I tell our kids? If this child is happy, healthy, and being loved by her grandparents, which appears to be the case, isn't it kinder to let her keep living her life without interruption? I don't know if I could ever see this child as anything other than the product of my husband's unfaithfulness. Obviously, I support him sending child support if the DNA test does prove he is the father. Am I the asshole for not wanting this child in my life? Be honest. Are the only other options be 1, playing stepmom to a child who will forever be a reminder of my husband's unfaithfulness, or 2, divorcing the man I love with all of my heart because I don't want to stand in the way of him being in the child's life?
Am I the asshole for tricking my parents into being on time for my wedding? So my 33 male parents are late for everything, like everything. Both my sisters and myself have been disappointed so many times. Graduation ceremonies, birthday parties, even my father's retirement dinner. It's completely my mother's fault. She is a wonderful woman and I love her dearly. She just does not understand the concept of punctuality. I've seen her talking to her sister on the phone and reminded her that she needed to be at my baby sister's dance recital, and she would wave me off and arrived after my sister had already danced. We're all used to it. My dad is just done trying to get her to be on time for anything. My now wife, 28 female, told me in no uncertain terms that if my mother was late to our wedding, she would do terrible things to me. She was only half joking, but she was a witness to my mom and dad arriving halfway through my cousin's quinceañera. So here's what I did. When we were getting samples for the wedding, I talked to the printer and had one special invitation printed with the time on it being 1 hour earlier than the actual time start of the ceremony. My mother was beside herself apparently when they left the house and thought they were going to miss the wedding since she was part of it with her and my mother-in-law lighting the candles we would use to light the unity candle and stuff. When she arrived and noticed other people were also just arriving and parking, she was just so relieved she just went along with it. The ceremony went off beautifully and so did the wedding, pictures, and the reception. The problem came last Sunday. My parents came over for a big family dinner and we didn't bother to start the grill until they showed up. She asked why everyone wasn't eating and we just said we knew we'd be waiting for them since they are always late. She said that she's not always late and had been on time for my wedding. The idiot cousin John snorted at her statement. A few other people giggled or smiled at this and she picked up and asked what was so funny. I came clean and told her about the special invitation. She is pissed at me for not trusting her and making her look like a fool in front of everyone. If my cousin had just controlled himself, she would have never known. So am I the asshole? All right, so on to the update 2 years later. My parents have embarrassed me for 2 years now because of how I tricked trick them into being on time for my wedding. Pretty much every time I see them, they say I was a dick for not trusting them. Our church is very busy and full of young people, so there are a lot of weddings, to the point where there are 3 weddings every Saturday all summer long. One at 10, one at noon, and one at 3. Sometimes, but not often, there is also an evening wedding. My little sister just got married. She snagged the noon slot. My mom got super involved in the planning of the wedding to prove that I'm just an immature asshole. She said that she would be on time and not miss anything. Side note, I personally hate when people clink glasses to get the bride and groom to kiss. At our wedding, people had to sing a song. My cousin John has no shame and sang like 10 times.
Hell yeah.
I think people were bribing him with alcohol. I set up a betting pool for kisses depending on how late my parents were. It cost $10, and if you guessed within 5 minutes, you get a free pass to make my sister and her husband kiss. Almost everyone bet on time because of the shit extravaganza at my wedding. The correct answer was 35 minutes late. Only me, my dick cousin John, and his sister Yvonne got the free passes for the kissing. We raised almost $1,500 for the honeymoon with my stupid idea. I also got to interrupt my sister from eating with my 10 free kiss passes. Win-win. Except my mom, who thinks I did it to embarrass her. She literally helped plan the wedding and was still late by over half an hour. We were literally cleaning up the decorations in my sister's colors while the next wedding was decorating after us. So that's that. My mom will never change, but I have harnessed her inability to give a shit about punctuality for the good of humanity. See you whenever my littlest sister gets married. Later.
I have to decide whether or not I'm going to destroy my entire family. My parents were high school sweethearts and got married when they were 18. They had my oldest brother at 20, and now there's 5 of us. To be honest, I don't necessarily want a marriage one day like my parents have. Growing up, my dad was never around. He was always working a ton of jobs, traveling for business, and my mom was super present, always there, but I don't know. They just didn't really seem married to me, if that makes sense. It just felt like my dad never appreciated anything that my mom did. Even when he was home, it was like she wasn't even there. She was literally there just to take care of him, to make him food, to clean up after him. He never said thank you, never said please. I don't know, not the most appreciative guy. Now, my mom comes from a big old family. There are 8 of them, and they all live super close by. So I've always grown up with all of my cousins around, all of my aunts and uncles, and it's always been a really good time. We're super close to them, and honestly, I'm closer to some of my uncles than I am to my own dad. My mom has always been particularly close to her youngest sister, let's call her Jane. And my Aunt Jane has always been around. When I was growing up, she was kind of like a second mom to me, and I absolutely love her. We all joke that my Aunt Jane is actually the only person that can get through to my dad. My dad's a very stubborn man and doesn't listen to anyone, but for some reason, he has a soft spot for my Aunt Jane. I didn't really realize how soft this soft spot was, but we're getting there. I was visiting my parents last week at home, and my mom was grocery shopping. We have a rule in our house that if we want any kind of snacks, they have to go on the grocery list. And I realized that I had forgot to put my favorite kinds of chips on the list, which was a huge emergency because my brother had eaten them all and we were out. Something about me is that I am always losing my phone. It's always in the couch cushions, under a pile of clothes, something. So when I went to grab my phone to text my mom, didn't know where it was, didn't see it anywhere. But I did see my dad's phone on the kitchen counter. Something about my dad is that he's very weird about his phone. We all know that we are not allowed to touch it no matter what. There is no situation that we should ever touch our dad's phone, but I don't know. It was a chip emergency, okay? And how would he ever know? How would he ever know? I was just gonna go text my mom, delete the messages. Like, I thought that'd be fine. So I made the decision to go and pick up my dad's phone. And for someone who is very private about their phone, he should have a passcode, which he didn't. As soon as I open his texts, I see that one had just come through from my Aunt Jane. And I was not prepared for what I was about to see. The text from my Aunt Jane to my father said, "I miss you so much, baby." Baby? What? Baby? Why is she calling my dad baby? And I am not the kind of girl that's just gonna put the phone down and pretend I didn't see it. No, I was gonna read all of those texts because I was gonna figure out what the heck was going on in my family. And the more I read, the worse and worse it got. It was literal years of text messages between my Aunt Jane and my dad, always calling each other baby, talking about meeting up, saying I love you. Like, these were relationship texts. And I first tried to tell myself that, no, this is just like a brother-in-law, sister-in-law thing. It wasn't. It was romantic. I mean, there were tons of texts talking about how they hated lying to my mom, how they hated lying to the kids, things like that. I mean, it was very clear that they were having an affair. No, I was not about to get caught by my dad, so I couldn't go back all the way to see how long the affair has been going on, but I know it's been at least 3 years, and I would not be surprised if it's been much, much longer than that. The very first thing I did was call my older sister, because what are big sisters for if not literally solving all of your problems? So I call her, I tell her what's going on, and she says that no matter what, I should not say anything to anybody else because it is not worth risking the family over. She said that our parents have been in a marriage of convenience for years anyway, so honestly, for all we know, our mom could already know about all of this, and they really just don't want the kids to know. But if my mom doesn't know, this is gonna absolutely break her heart, ruin her marriage, our parents' marriage, and her relationship with her sister, who she's so close to. And we're also so close with our cousins, so, I mean, this would just be a whole mess. But I don't know, I don't think that I can live with having this giant family secret on my shoulders. I feel like I have to tell my mom. She deserves to know. I mean, she already knows something is off. I literally immediately left my parents' house before my mom even got back from grocery shopping, and I didn't even get my chips. And I've been avoiding her calls, her texts. I mean, she keeps asking me what's wrong, and I don't know how much longer I can keep this secret. So, I don't know what to do. Am I a bad person if I tell my mom? Am I a bad person if I don't tell my mom? I don't know. I don't know if I should follow what my sister says or do what I think is right. Well, I did it. I destroyed my family, and I'm still not convinced it was the right decision. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I tried to forget it happened. I tried to gaslight myself into thinking that I was just imagining things. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I was laying awake at night just thinking about the situation. And if I ever did fall asleep, terrible nightmares. Just the thought of my mom finding out and everybody getting upset at each other, it was too much. But also, there was no way that I could be the one to tell my sweet, sweet angel of a mother that her husband of years was cheating on her. That's not my responsibility. So I knew what I had to do. I had to confront my father. Now, I want to make it clear that I do not remember the last time that me and my father said more than 15 words to each other at one time. I would not call my father the warm and fuzzy type. Actually, I would call him exactly the opposite. Growing up, if any of my siblings were ever sad, he would tell us to get over it. Build a bridge. That's what he'd say. But the thought of confronting my father seemed way more appealing than watching my sweet mother's heartbreak right in front of my very eyes. So that's what I did. So I went over to my parents' house at a time that I knew only my dad would be home. I sat down right next to him, and he didn't even look up from the newspaper, which is so classic. And I mean, what are you supposed to say? Like, I just blurted out, I know you're having an affair with Aunt Jane. And that caused him to look up for sure. And that's when the gaslighting started. He was like, Kelsey, that is a ridiculous accusation to make against me. How dare you even say that? And I'm just sitting there like, which also in my head, I'm like, please, please, I just want to be wrong so badly. And that's when he asks me, why would you even say this? Which was the question I was dreading. Because if you remember, I've said that my dad hates nothing more than for any of us to touch his phone. I mean, I guess I know why now. And so I told him I was going to call mom on your phone. And I went, I opened it, and a text from Aunt Jane popped up. And he immediately just started screaming at me, being like, how dare you touch my phone? That's an invasion of privacy. Which I was like, obviously. Of course, this is what the topic of discussion is going to turn into, isn't it? Not the fact that you're having an affair, but that I touched your phone. Okay, doesn't seem like that's the main problem here, father. He's yelling at me for literally 5 minutes as I just sit there thinking, okay, when are we going to get to the actual issue I came here to talk about? And finally, he says, I cannot believe you would cross that boundary. And that's finally when I say something. I was like, I don't think you're really one to speak about boundaries when you can't respect the ones of your marriage and your family. And that makes him super mad. And he's yelling at me, you have no idea what you're talking about. Don't talk about things you know nothing about. And I was like, Dad, I know what I saw. I'm not an idiot, okay? I know you're having an affair. And I wanted so badly for him to just keep defending himself, okay? Because then maybe I could have left and been like, you're right. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I could never see the messages again, so I could just, kind of lie to myself. But that's when he gets really quiet and says, does your mother know? the worst words you could have said to me. And I told him, no, because it's not my job to tell her. And you've already put me in an unfair position. You can't keep doing that. And honestly, it was the most emotional I've ever seen my dad. He didn't cry, okay? He said he got caught cheating on his wife, the mother of his children, by his child. He didn't cry. Okay, whatever, Dad. And he was like, you're right. It's not your job to tell her. I will. Honestly, I was shocked when he said this because my dad is a very stubborn man and a very proud man. And I thought that he was just going to try to convince me to keep it a secret and never say anything. But he said that he would admit to it right away. After that, I left and went home. I mean, what else was I supposed to do at that point? I feel like I did everything that I could. And my dad said he was going to tell my mom. So I decided to go home, try and relax. Didn't work. And just kind of wait for the fallout of all of this. I don't hear anything that night. And the next day, my mom calls me and she sounds completely normal. So I know he hasn't told her yet. I'm getting a little impatient at this point because I'm like, did he just lie to me? Am I gonna have to go talk to him again? Because I don't want to do that. And at what point am I gonna have to tell my mom? But a few days later, I get a call from my little brother who still lives at home. And let me tell you, he got the tea on the entire situation. I guess my parents thought he wasn't home, but he skipped school that day, so he overheard the entire conversation, which I hate. He shouldn't have had to do that, but at least I have the details. Again, I want to preface that my father is not an emotional man, so it's not like he did this delicately with my mother. Apparently, he just sat her down on the couch and said, I've been in a relationship with your younger sister for 6 years now. Just like that. That's exactly what he said. And my brother said there was silence for like a full 2 minutes. Then my mom said in a very calm voice, can you repeat that? My dad did. And apparently she started going berserk, like screaming, crying, throwing things. And my mom is a very mild-mannered woman. Like, I have never seen her raise her voice. So the thought of this happening, it's beyond weird to me. But also very understandable because she just found out that not only was her husband betraying her, but her little sister and best friend. So I would also go berserk. My little brother said that next, my mom got it together, called my Aunt Jane up in a very calm voice, asked her to come over. So my Aunt Jane had no idea what she was about to walk into. My Aunt Jane comes over, and when my mom confronts her about what was going on, her reaction was to start swinging. My Aunt Jane also, not an aggressive woman, never seen her yell either. So I don't know why her reaction was to start fighting my mom. And I get it, my mom was saying some pretty not nice things to my Aunt Jane, okay? But to be fair, she was having an affair with her husband. So you can see where my mom was coming from. At this point, all my little brother can hear is screaming and crying and my dad trying to pull my mom and my aunt off of each other. And that's when my little brother calls the police because he was scared and he didn't want anybody to get hurt. Smart boy. The police show up and they arrest my Aunt Jane, put her in handcuffs, took her downtown. My dad followed right behind that car. He had to go save his girlfriend. Yeah, he left his wife, the mother of his children, at home, sad, confused, devastated, while he argued with the police officers to try to bail my Aunt Jane out. Since this has happened, my dad has moved out of his house with my mom and moved in with my Aunt Jane. My Aunt Jane's husband, my uncle, yeah, she just kicked him out. She just literally told him point blank, I'm not in love with you anymore. I'm in love with my sister's husband and he's moving in and you're moving out. So pack up and go. How are people like this? Everybody in the family's picking sides. Some of my siblings and my cousins actually aren't even that mad at my dad and my Aunt Jane, which I don't understand at all. And the family dynamic has absolutely been destroyed, okay? No more family dinners for us. And even though my mom's devastated, honestly, she seems more like herself than I've ever seen her. I think that she really had to like dull her sparkle to be with my dad because everything just had to be his way all the time. I feel like she couldn't even be herself. So hopefully she finds somebody that makes her happy because I want my mom to be happy. But anyway, a ton of my family members are incredibly angry at me, saying that I just should have kept my mouth shut because everything was fine the way that it was. But I don't know. I think I did the right thing, even if now there's bad consequences of it.
Stop settling for the boy that literally just wants to stay in his room every single time that you see each other. I really, really wish that I'd listened to everyone that told me this. If it's only when you're out of a relationship you realise how bad it actually was. When you're looking back, you're like, oh, was I just in a situationship? There's so much time to be stuck in your house when you're married with kids, with a dog, etc, etc, not when you are literally like so young and the relationship is so new and fresh. So if they're like this now, can you imagine what they're going to be like in like 5-10 years time? Can you imagine what they're going to be like when you have kids? Like, are they actually going to be asked about doing anything? I cannot stress enough how important quality time together is. Like, just staying in the house every single weekend or every single time you see each other, time together, you need to keep that spark going, okay? Otherwise it's going to become repetitive, it's going to become boring, you're going to become sick of each other when you're just stuck in a room every single time. A lot of times I've wanted to end a relationship or end a situationship or anything because I've not been given the literal bare minimum. Single time I've wanted to settle because I've literally just wanted a boyfriend, you know? Like, I knew it was right and I knew like I didn't want to be with them, but also I did want to be with them as like that comfort. But you shouldn't stay with someone for comfort. You want someone who is excited to see you every single time, not just like lay in bed like you don't want to be made to feel like an absolute burden. Date nights do not have to be expensive. I'm not saying that you have to go on a date night every single week and spend like £300-400, okay? You can literally go on a drive, go get a coffee. Like, it's just that like spending a little bit of time together outside the house. Sleeping out, that boy who has no time to see you or spend time with you or money, etc, etc, but at the jump of a hat literally go see his mates and do anything and everything with them is not your soulmate. Like, literally do not settle with that, okay? But we all know deep down when we are settling for someone we just don't want to admit it. And you might think like, oh my god, but I've never felt this way before. But he just knows me. Like, nobody gets me like him. How many times have we said that now? Okay. I generally think most of the time we're actually trying to convince ourselves more than anyone else. Sometimes get to a point where I would actually want them to cheat on me so I had a reason to leave. That's when you know. Like, girl, just leave, okay? Just leave without the trauma. Unfortunately, as harsh as it sounds, if he wanted to, he genuinely would, okay? It's not hard to do the bare minimum. It's really he doesn't do it. He clearly doesn't want to. So, leave him. My biggest regret now is actually not listening to the people around me. So if you are listening to this and it relates to you, leave him. Leave me now, okay? In like 2 weeks' time, you'll be over it and you'll feel so much better. Personal experience.
My best man canceled on me because of his child's baptism. My 34 male and my girlfriend 35 female of 7 years announced our plan to marry earlier this year to our friends and families. The wedding is planned for early summer 2024, specifically one day ahead of my best friend's 34 male birthday. Let's call him Dave. Before we set the date, I talked to Dave and made sure that attending our wedding and thus interfering with his 35th birthday would be okay for him, which it was. We set the date and invited both Dave and his girlfriend, 34 female. Let's call her Sue. I asked Dave to be my best man. I have known Dave since high school, and even though we live some distance away, we have maintained our friendship over the years. Since we sent out the wedding invitations, Sue got pregnant, which they let me know while visiting last week. Them expecting a child is an absolute joy. I'm genuinely happy for them and congratulated them. The expected due date is roughly 2 months ahead of our wedding. As Sue is an arch Catholic, her words, the baptism of her child is extremely important to her and she is determined to have the child baptized the day after our wedding, with Sunday, which is also Dave's birthday. Dave is agnostic. Apparently, they already discussed the date and agreed on it, while Dave forgot that the day before is our wedding. Moving the day of the baptism is out of the question to Sue, and with Sunday is apparently an ideal day for the baptism according to Catholic belief, and she fears sudden infant death, which she apparently extensively read up upon. Having her child die would prevent it from entering heaven and having a Catholic burial. She specifically stated that delaying the baptism would pose too high of a risk with respect to sudden infant death. The mere proposal by my girlfriend to choose a different day, such as Christ's Ascension, also an important Catholic holiday, roughly 1 week ahead of Whit Sunday, was met with disdain by Sue. Over the days of Dave's and Sue's visit, the atmosphere got pretty tense, especially between Sue and my girlfriend, which culminated in Sue yelling at Dave like this was no environment to bear a child, that she felt like no one is happy over the pregnancy, and that she felt pressured, and also Sue having Dave uninvite my girlfriend from a trip the same day. Dave later approached me, close to tears, to essentially cancel his attendance, as the baptism and his child are more important to him. I assured him that I would not put him under any more pressure. Now, I do mean that I wouldn't put Dave under pressure, but having my best friend not attend my wedding and losing my best man is a shock to me. Attending both the wedding and the baptism would be impossible, but would require traveling by plane, which I guess didn't come to anyone's mind during the rather heated situation, or traveling late by car or train for several hours. I do feel that Dave is completely under Sue's thumb and that she's making all of the decisions in their relationship. In a few weeks, I will meet them again to what was originally planned as a guy's getaway, which Sue will now be a part of.
Am I the astronaut for giving my husband the silent treatment after finding out that he went on a last date with his ex a week before we got married to make sure? His ex was always the one that got away, according to everyone around him. But he ended things because he didn't see a future with her, but everyone around him was shocked because she's so good and beautiful. Then we met, and I soon understood that everyone from his side preferred her. I even heard some call me the Camilla. Although I am neither much older nor less attractive, in my opinion. I love how I look, even if I don't tick all of the beauty boxes like tall, blonde, blue eyes, etc., like his ex. He never gave me any reason to doubt him, however. He gave me the impression that he knew exactly what he wanted. He was secure enough in his heart that he told me he loved me a few months into our relationship, and I never felt like he was lying or that I wasn't enough. He is fully aware of what people think about him leaving his ex, and he gave the impression that he thought they were silly and childish. He told his mom that I am who he chose, and if she wanted a part of it, she needed to clean up her act. We got married 3 years ago, and now, only now, I'm finding out that he went on a date with his ex a few days before our wedding. He wanted to know for sure that she wasn't like everyone around him thought, the one who got away. He wanted to make 100% sure. His mom told me gleefully when she visited our new baby and looked at my daughter and said she wondered what would have happened if he changed his mind after that date and she was visiting their baby now. Game on. My husband and the one who got away's baby. With a sigh, but gleefully. You know what I mean. I haven't spoken to him for a week and I hate silent treatment, but I just can't talk to him. It isn't something I am doing to punish him or manipulate him or get the upper hand and control him. I just can't look at him or talk to him. Am I the astronaut for this silent treatment? Edit! He was there when it happened. He told his mom to shut up. Then he admitted that he went on a date and admitted the reason his mom told me was the truth.
My mom literally gaslights me into thinking I have diseases that I don't have. My mom does not believe in traditional medicine or anything like that. So anytime I have something wrong with me, it has to be something that's going on in my gut. Don't get me wrong, I think that's a great approach, but it's also no, there is scientific things that it's not just what's happening in my stomach. I had really bad anxiety and depression my freshman year of high school. I wasn't in school, and my mom took me so many therapists and things like that, and then she took me to a holistic doctor. You want to know what makes an almond mom really fucking excited? A holistic doctor. I have never seen my mom's eyes light up the way it did when she was talking to this holistic doctor. Holistic doctors, they don't believe in medicine. They believe everything is food. And don't get me wrong, I agree with that too sometimes. What's important to note here is that I was diagnosed with candida when I was my freshman year of high school. It's just a yeast overgrowth in your stomach, and it can cause anxiety and depression. You guys, my mother took this and ran with it. To this fucking day, this bitch is convinced that I still have candida. The only way to get rid of it is the candida diet. She's like, Olivia, your candida is just overreacting again. Your candida. I'm like, Mom, I had candida 6 fucking years ago. I get it can come back, but guess what? I don't think it did, okay? My best friend always jokes with me. She's like, oh, is it your candida? Is it your candida? Because my mom is always fucking ranting about me having this candida. Even when life is good and I'm not even that fucking anxious, this bitch is oh my god, your candida is acting up. I can just tell by your skin, your candida's acting up. No, bitch, it's hormonal fucking acne, but you know what? No, everything is blamed on my candida. It's been almost 10 years and this bitch will let me have a life where I don't have fucking candida. And the worst part about it is every 6 months I kind of fall into her trap and I'm like, maybe I do have candida again. So do the candida diet, which let me just tell you is a miserable fucking diet. You can't even have coffee. Loki, my almond mother is just gaslighting the shit out of me. I genuinely won't even have the symptoms, but she'll convince me so hard that I have candida. I'm is this what Gypsy Rose felt like when her mom was lying about all her fucking diseases? So my mom will see this video and she'll be you were kind of angry in this video, maybe it's your candida. Anything in the fucking world is my candida. I could be going through a horrible heartbreak and I'm Mom, I'm just so sad right now. And she's it's probably your candida. I'm no, it's not. The fact that my boyfriend fucking broke up with me, it's my candida. Also, it's only me. It's never, my sissy never has candida. Nobody else has candida. It's only me. When someone tells you have something enough, I'm okay, maybe I fucking do. I will have somebody in my life who just died and my mom will be it was your candida, that's why you're sad. I'm no, I just buried a friend, and she's candida. And this woman will never not let me live without thinking that I have candida.